What do you get when Volvo copies Tesla's homework? This charming little guy, the brand new Volvo EX30, a small electric SUV with a ton of personality that puts its own spin on the minimalist EV formula. And because we grade on a curve, we of course had to bring along its inspiration, the Tesla Model Y, a vehicle that has undergone years and years of updates and fixes to where it is now one of our favorite electric SUVs, bar none. Lots to cover today, let's get right into it. If you're looking for more information on the EX30, the Model Y, or any other new vehicle on sale today, just head over to edmunds.com. These air vents, they look sick. And even better, you don't even have to go into the touchscreen to use them. Unfortunately, that's something I wish I could say about more things in this interior. The EX30 shows that minimalism doesn't have to be boring. Now, there are almost no buttons in this interior, which is also true of another cabin we're going to cover in a few minutes, but this design shows that it doesn't have to feel clinical or barren. Let's take this dash as an example. This could have easily been one long trim piece that's like a single color and kind of boring, but instead, Volvo has thrown in other bits of ground up plastic to give it some color and distinct personality for each vehicle. There are plenty of other cool details on this interior as well. The door handle and this trim piece behind it, those are both real metal. And the seats, they are covered in a mix of synthetic leather and cloth that's made from recycled bottles. And on top of that, they're an awesome light blue color and really comfy. However, even though Volvo was able to pull off the design with this interior, there are some very practical shortcomings. There is no center console, and this sort of storage trough down here, it's a little bit too low to be useful. The USB ports, for example, are under this other little cover here too, and they're very hard to reach. And if you need cup holders, they slide out from this little thing right here, but getting this to operate isn't the simplest thing in the world. Now, the cup holders themselves are part of this little frame that you can slide in and out when you're not using them, but they're not very big. They won't fit our water bottle, for instance, but this cup will fit. However, they're not very secure, so this thing might slide around while you're driving. In fact, the most useful storage space on this interior is probably the huge door pockets in both front doors. And they're so big in part because Volvo, they didn't put any speakers in the doors like you traditionally would. Instead, the EX30 has a sound bar like you'd find under your TV that runs the whole dashboard. And the good news is, it sounds pretty good. Look around this interior, and one thing that you won't see very much of are buttons. And that's because just like in the Tesla, all of these features, you're gonna have to get to those by going through the touchscreen. And in some cases, using them can be quite difficult, even for simple things like turning on or off the headlights. To do that, you've got to go to the vehicle here, you've got to then hit exterior lights, choose what you want, and then after that, you then have to go over to the steering wheel, hit another button, and then you finally change the lights. Now, I can hear what you're saying. Brian, what about voice commands? Why can't you just use those? Well, okay, Google, change the interior temperature to 68 degrees.
Changing the temperature to the hottest.
The hottest? What we discovered during our testing was that the vehicle is setting the temperature to the hottest because it thinks that we're doing things in Celsius. And that is indicative of the lack of overall polish that this infotainment system has. Now, the screen itself is high definition and very responsive, but at times it can feel a little bit small given all the things that it has to do. But the software, we would call that a work in progress. Like some other automakers, Volvo is pumping out regular updates, and they do add useful features like car wash mode or even Apple CarPlay. But as the car sits now, we are a couple of months into our ownership, and the consensus from our staff is that this software still doesn't feel fully baked. And by the way, there is no Android Auto. Yes, this is an Android-based system, and you can log in with your Google account, but sometimes it's just easier to plug in your phone and have access to all the apps that you've already set up. We'll have plenty of time to find out if this vehicle can improve, however, because the EX30, just like the Model Y also featured in this video, they're both part of our year-long road test program. So to keep up with the latest updates on the EX30, the Model Y, and the 20 other odd vehicles in our program, head over to Edmunds and check out our long-term blog. The EX30, believe it or not, is almost 2 feet shorter than the Model Y, and you can definitely feel that when you hop into the back seat. There's just not a lot of room back here. This seat is set up where I like to drive. I'm just under 6 feet tall, and as you can see, my knees are firmly planted into the thankfully well padded seat back. Now, there's also no rear air vents back here, which is a big omission for a vehicle that costs almost $50,000. The only thing that I do like is that actually small item storage is better in the back than in the front. You actually have a place where you can put your phone where you can get to it easily, and you have a nice little storage bin that you can pull out, and it's even got a friendly creature on the side of it. And since I barely fit back here, if you have something large like a rear-facing car seat, good luck. Similar to the tight confines of the rear seat, the cargo area is also tiny, less than you're going to get with a Honda Civic, the sedan, not even the hatchback. And it's not just a small number, this space is not that deep or that wide. I wasn't able to fit my golf clubs back here without folding the back seat down. And if you're bringing along something like a checked piece of luggage, as you can see, it takes up most of the space. So if you're gonna go on a road trip with, let's say, 3 other passengers, you can bring them along, but not their stuff. Oh, and in case you were wondering, there is a frunk, and it's even smaller. 3, 2, 1. Well, I did not expect that. This is actually the quickest Volvo vehicle that we've ever tested at the Edmunds test track. It is as quick as a 911 Carrera Cabriolet that we had in on the same day from 0 to 60 miles an hour, once you can get into the menus and figure out how to actually turn that performance mode on. We already knew that Tesla knew how to build a fast car, and it looks like Volvo does too. Now, that being said, this thing doesn't really handle like a 911, but that's probably a good thing, because to make it do so, you'd have to make it really stiff. And instead, what they've done is gone for comfort, so it does feel a touch soft, but that is the right call for an SUV like this one. And beyond just being comfortable, it's also really quiet. While cruising at 70 miles an hour, this thing is actually quieter than the Model Y, and that's a vehicle that we've lauded for how serene its interior is at highway speeds. After spending a few days with the EX30, I actually came to appreciate how small it is, because if you live in a city like we do in Los Angeles, finding a space to fit a larger vehicle can feel really difficult. And this thing is not just shorter than a Model Y, it's also 3 inches shorter than a Mini Countryman, and it's also even shorter than a Volkswagen GTI. This might be the easiest vehicle to park since the smart car. Now, the EX30 has 2 big problems with its driving experience, and they both have to do with things that you can't see. First of all, the blind spots over either shoulder are horrendous. You turn your head when you're trying to change lanes, and you just can't see anything at all in either direction. And the second thing is there is no instrument cluster and no HUD. Now, it is not the only vehicle in this comparison with that problem, but the Tesla has a horizontally oriented touchscreen, so it puts things a little bit more in view. This thing, I mean, just look at it. You have to turn your head even further to the right if you want to see things like your speed or how the safety features are working. It's just not a great user experience. Speaking of driver aids, in the Volvo, they are pretty annoying as well, especially the driver attention monitor. If you like to drive with your hand on top of the steering wheel, it's always going to yell at you that it can't see your face. And it also likes to tell you a lot that you're tired or that you're looking away too much, even if you're only looking away for a few seconds to, let's say, look at the screen to check out how fast you're going. I end up turning it off every time I get into the vehicle. And yes, you have to turn it off every time, because each time it turns on, that system boots up automatically. That being said, the adaptive cruise control and lane keep, they both work as advertised, and the surround view camera system is pretty good in this car. Now, the EX30 does have a 1-pedal drive mode, but its regen is super weak, so it doesn't actually feel like it. I'm going 25 miles an hour right now, and I've given myself quite a run up, and it just doesn't really slow down at all. You end up having to hit the regular brakes anyway. It needs a bit more regen dialed in to really feel good. So overall, we like how the EX30 drives quite a bit. We love how quick it is. We like how comfortable and quiet the ride is, but those driver aids, they still need work, and they're indicative of sort of the entire vehicle. It just needs some polish on the software side to really feel a lot better. Set the temperature to 70 degrees. It must be made in America because it knows Fahrenheit. This is kind of the story with the Model Y compared to the EX30. They do a lot of the same stuff, but Tesla has been doing it for longer, so they just work. Like the Volvo, the Model Y has a single screen, but it's bigger, it's oriented the correct way, and if you've been in any Tesla over the past few years, you know that this thing is packed with features, and they're all generally pretty easy to use. And in its latest update, the Model Y has also upgraded its audio system, so it sounds better than what you're getting in the Volvo as well. The only thing that the Volvo really does better from a technology standpoint is that it has Apple CarPlay and that it offers a surround view camera, something that Tesla weirdly doesn't offer on any of its vehicles. But otherwise, this is the better system to use. But just because it's better doesn't mean that it's perfect. The fact that you still have to dig into the screen to do things like aim the air vents or even open the glove box, those things will always feel a bit more complicated than they should be. This is also our favorite current Tesla interior, more so than the Model 3 and the Cybertruck, for one simple reason: it has a turn signal stock, so you don't have to hit those weird buttons on the steering wheel to communicate with the people around you. Beyond the technology, the standard heated and ventilated front seats come with great cushioning and support, and the synthetic leather that now covers them feels much better than the stuff that was on our old Model Y. And if you want a full rundown of the changes on this new vehicle, you can check out our video. Compared to the EX30 on comfort, I would say that the front seats are a wash, but the back seat, much better in the Model Y. When it comes to small item storage, there's no contest. The Model Y has a real center console, an additional storage bin here, and a pair of actual cup holders that aren't big enough to fit a water bottle, but do easily fit our big cup. This is pretty cool. The backseat of the Model Y is light years beyond what you're getting with the Volvo, both on space and on features, because back here, you're getting air vents, you're getting a little screen to control things, and of course, you're getting cup holders, which are nowhere to be found in the back of an EX30. What an oversight. In addition to that, this back seat is also power reclining, so you can lean it forward and back without any effort of your own, and on paper, there's over 8 more inches of rear legroom, and sitting back here, it definitely feels like it. The Model Y's cargo area is a masterclass in space efficiency. This is not only the better cargo area of the two vehicles that we have here, it's probably the single best one of all the compact electric SUVs. Just a ton of room back here, and below this underfloor storage that's big enough to fit a carry-on bag as well. We put our checked luggage in here, and you can tell it just doesn't take up nearly as much space as it does in the Volvo. You can fit 2 of these side by side, and there's also a gigantic frunk. Now, the other thing that we really like about this vehicle is that power reclining second row is also power folding. So if I just press a little button here, those seats fold down, and I can also fold them down via the front screen or the back screen. And the front seats, if they're in the way, they'll actually move forward just a touch to allow the seats to fold and then move back into the position that they were once in. Really practical, really considerate from Tesla to put in a feature like this. And now we get behind the wheel of the Model Y, which, while not as quick as the Volvo, is just as enjoyable to drive. This suspension tuning is excellent. It's quiet on the road, and I love how comfortable and quiet this interior is as well. The thing that the Model Y does much better than the EX30 is its regenerative braking. It's just a lot smoother. It's easier to drive at low speeds than the Volvo. And you do have 2 different settings for the regen now, so it doesn't feel quite as jerky. So if you want it to feel smoother, just knock that down into reduced, no problem. All in all, no complaints anymore about how the Model Y drives. It's just a really easy vehicle to hop into and go every day. Now, the Tesla's driver aids, they're a lot more dialed in than the Volvos, no weird annoying things, and the adaptive cruise control on the highway is one of our favorite systems that's out there. But we can't talk about any Tesla without talking about full self-driving, or FSD for short, and our Model Y has the latest FSD supervised system, which if you input a destination into the navigation system, it'll basically drive you from where you are to where you need to go and even park for you. This is not a self-driving or autonomous system. No one has anything like that. And one of the ways that you can tell is that if the car crashes when it's operating it, that's still on you. And when it's at its best, This system is admittedly really impressive. It can do things that no other system out there can. But that doesn't mean that you can just leave it to its own devices. First, it does still ask you to keep your hands on the wheel, and that's kind of weird because it's doing all the steering and everything else, but you're just kind of letting the wheel slide between your fingers. And second, you really do need to pay close attention to it because it has a tendency to drive like, let's call it an unpolite person. It makes weird lane changes. Other staff members have experienced it doing things like trying to pass people on the shoulder. And even in my experience, it's done questionable things, changed lanes and intersections, cut people off. Oh my God, we're gonna merge right. I'm such an asshole. So even though the car is driving, you're the one who ends up making the apology wave when they pull up next to you. And the other issue is cost. So $8,000 is a pretty big price tag for this safety system. And if you don't want to pay that, you can also pay a pretty hefty monthly subscription. Is it something that I would go for? Probably not, but that's because I also enjoy driving. If you do like to show off to your friends though, it might be worth it. All in all, I would say that both of these SUVs, they're pretty great to drive. The Volvo is quicker, but the Model Y is more comfortable. But with either one you're getting, we think you're gonna like them from behind the wheel. And of course, both of these vehicles have taken a spin on the world famous Edmunds EV range test, which means that they've driven the exact same route that we put all other electric vehicles on, driven with a mix of 60% city and 40% highway driving at an average speed of 40 miles an hour to simulate real-world driving conditions. The EX30 barely beat its EPA estimate and covered 256 miles on our test. And if that doesn't sound very good, it's because it isn't. The Model Y went 327 miles on the same test, giving it a range advantage of about 70 miles. Most new electric vehicles these days are coming in with at least 300 miles of range or more, and that makes the EX30 an outlier in the wrong way. Now it's time to talk value, and we're going to start here with the EX30, which, if we're being honest, feels a bit overpriced. The as-tested price for this vehicle is nearly $50,000, and for that money, it doesn't feel like you're getting enough range or utility out of the EX30, with its software problems just adding to the frustration. The other caveat that we have to give with the Volvo's pricing is because this vehicle is built in China, and that makes the situation a bit fluid. Volvo is trying to shift production of US-bound units to its factory in Belgium, but that isn't a change that the company can make overnight. This is a problem that the Model Y avoids by being built in America. Now, at the time that we ordered this vehicle, it was only available as the Model Y Launch Edition, which is basically a fully loaded, long-range, all-wheel drive. Now you can actually buy one of those vehicles without all the bells and whistles, and that drops the price a lot. And they also offer a rear-wheel drive version that has even more range for less money. So even though the Model Y costs about $13,000 more than the Volvo, we still feel like you're getting more value out of this vehicle given its refinement and all the things that it does well, and the fact that its powertrain warranty is about double what you're getting with the EX30. And remember, if you skip out on a couple options and that full self-driving package, the cost of this vehicle becomes really close to what you're paying for that. So it's no surprise that when it comes to the Edmunds rating, the Model Y is a big winner. And if you want to check out all the scores, you can pause right now. So for right now, the Tesla is clearly the better buy of these two vehicles. Really, the only reasons that you would want the Volvo are if you want a smaller vehicle or if you want to drive something that it doesn't feel like everyone else on the road already owns. Now remember, this comparison is a snapshot of where these vehicles are today. And in its short time with us, Volvo has already fixed a few of the software issues that have plagued the EX30, so in 8 or 9 months, that could almost feel like a brand new vehicle, and we certainly hope that it does. Further complicating things is the fact that both companies plan on offering even cheaper versions of these vehicles with single motors and with stripped out interiors that should both start in the mid $30,000 range. So we might have to come back in a year or so to run this test all over again. So would you go for the well-rounded Tesla or the quirky little Volvo? Should I start a Substack covering the best noodle spots in LA? Let us know down in the comments below because I read them when I should be going to sleep. Thanks for watching.